Okay, so however, the article is not that long. It is a middle size or mid-size writing, so maximum 14 pages, or roughly 13 pages. So just let's see how the story of Bach goes, and how the uh, experimentalism of Eugene O'Neill in drama can contribute to the affirmation of a modernist and postmodern mode in the writings of O'Neill. Okay, so let's talk about the play itself first. It is a play in one act. Uh, then the plot of the play, that of course it's not so relevant to say plot, but it is a sequence of events in the play are very simple actually, and the sequence is very simple, and people in the play, the characters, are very static characters that do not go beyond the normative beliefs that they are attached to. So that is the story of a steamer that has stopped the voyage for some reasons in the middle of the sea, and finally there are, I mean, some people in the steamer that should be evacuated from the shipwreck, and the reality of the story is partly based on uh, the conflict of ideas between two people, mostly referred to first as the first voice and then the second voice, so first voice and the second voice, and that is then the dark man and other man, and then they turn out to be the businessman and the poet. So this is the shift actually that comes to the light gradually, based on the recognition of each character, well, in the eyes of the other actually, and that the way that we should be very careful of referring to these people should refer exactly to the position that they take, or the role that they take in the play. Yes, I know that the article is about uh, other words, but this is quite irrelevant to say it is about something else. Uh, my mistake is that I think you are knowledgeable enough to understand what kind of material could be relevant and what kind could not be. You are disappointing me, Mr. Ramazan, I'm afraid to say. Critically, you have a long way ahead to go. Okay, so let's talk about the play. I mean, the characters, the play itself. We only have few characters: a poet, a man of business, a Polish or peasant woman, a dead child, the third officer of a steamer, and some sailors from other occasions on India steamer. Well. The start of the beginning of the play is absolutely dark, and it does not go for giving any credential to something promising. So the setting of the playing the beginning is absolutely dismal. So two people are talking to each other in a lifeboat. It shows that they have been shipwrecked, or maybe the ship or the steamer has stopped working in the middle of nowhere. So the only thing that they know is that they have been evacuated safely. And some people are missing, maybe because we do not know anything about them. We do not hear things from them. The only thing is that communicative atmosphere of these people is concretized in the boat. So there are 27 people in this, and I should unlock any of you who is going to talk. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, first, Ms. Khoshbacht late. Yes. So let's see, there is a message here for me that's because I'm late. Delay. That's not it. Yeah, that's nothing. Okay, yes. Ms. Khoshbacht, would you please talk about the holistic atmosphere in which the story happens?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Regarding your question about the play, I think before mentioning the characters, the most important aspect of the play is the conflict of the playwright between modernism and postmodernism, ways of writing plays that set these characters apart. We know that for modernist plays, the unique creation with deep meaning is very important. But for postmodernist plays, they don't offer one meaning. They always leave it to us. For them, truth is different. My truth is probably different from yours. So it depends on individual understanding. Such plays, I think, encourage the audience to drive their own meaning of the play that they read or watch. When you go to postmodern theater, the first important aspect that you see is that the characters or individuals in the play are isolated from societies or institutions, just like the example that we have here, that O'Neill presents the story in a lifeboat, and the characters are set in a context of, a small boat, which some say that probably shows the condition of the society or the health of the author himself. As you said, the interesting thing about the character is that at the beginning of the play, you don't know their name. You don't know who are they, what is the purpose of their existence in the play. But interestingly, when you move on, you get to know them first by their profession. And, as the businessman, as the poet, and the woman, the mother, and the child. The poet's physical descriptions matches, according to lots of critics that I read articles about the play, they say that, the big dark eye, the black mustache, and the black hair, everything resembles the author himself. And somehow they say that poet's ideas and some of the socialist references in the play may refer to the poet himself. And the businessman can be who is more materialistic and looks at the world in a materialistic way, represent the logical and reasonable side of O'Neill himself. And we have the character of a dead child, which is the indication of the cruelty and the how haunted the society is for to put a dead character on a stage from the beginning of the play until the end. For him, the concept of fog and the name of the fog is repeated constantly in his plays. He somehow we can say that the play is a supernatural, somehow has supernatural elements inside it. You see that O'Neill in his other plays, like Bound East for Cardiff, Thirst, or even Anna Christie, that the article that you presented refers to, we are dealing with the concept of fog and with dying sailors or the shipwreck or sea. So it shows that for him, this repeated image is like something that he uses to present his message. And interestingly, every time that there is a fog in his play, there, as I said, there's isolation for characters. Characters are stranded or helpless, and they don't know what to do or how to survive. That is what I got from the article that you sent, and also the study that I did from O'Neill himself. I don't know.
So the point, of course, that is worth mentioning here is that making likeness between the physical figure of the author and the characters, well, does not show any sense of critical significance. And however, well, it could be, of course, a part of your maybe conception of the holistic image that somebody may derive from the play. But that is, I think, of less value than the latent realities or critical maybe significance that you may find in the play. I just do mean that do not look for such material in the play. So, however, the rest of the writing about maybe Fog and other plays of O'Neill will demonstrate something that could be quite useful to us nowadays if we want to stop being misled by some of the misbegotten, if not well organized readings. So that is the case of the gradual transformation of unconscious into the conscious. So, and how does it happen in the play? So you just mentioned something very passingly, of course. But it is of great importance to us that how our conscious stems from the unconscious, and how is it? I mean, this condition of transmutation of one's consciousness about something. How this consciousness could be accumulatively maybe understood or established by the existence of unconscious, and how this is there is a symbolic maybe connection between these two, and how do you decode this symbolism in the play?
Should I answer, or you want other students to
You can answer
participate as well?
This is a question positive.
Okay. I think the main purpose that postmodernist authors and O'Neill himself uses psychology and psychological analysis perspective for the characters or for their play is that they create an abstract or somehow distorted world for the audiences, so the distinguishing from what is real and what's not, and what's we perceive as reality is different for each person individually, I think. The author tries to show us the, his stream of thought by showing some mysterious elements in his play, like the sounds, or the sound of passing a steamer, or the sound of a dead child that sailors think they heard. This is not a conscious element of the play,
But
I think.
how is it represented in the play? So there are some symbolic elements that may help us unravel this move from the unconscious to the conscious. So what are those elements?
I think the hear of a cry of a baby, and the story that the captain comes and tells that they heard, and they don't believe two men saying that the child is dead. It's a representation of that unconscious idea that O'Neill tries to present. You don't know whether it's real or not. You, at the audience, know that the child is dead, but the people doesn't believe this. The people inside the play, the character inside the play, don't present this as a reality. I think many of my friends want to talk, and maybe my understanding of the play is not enough. So I prefer other students also share their wisdom.
Okay, so just spare your ideas.
Actually, Professor, I would like to speak about it a lot, and I've read and studied a lot, but we had this discussion that each person don't take up a lot of time of professor. So it's not been a one-on-one discussion. Just
So
I
actually,
wanted
this is the problem of a virtual class, and that is
yes.
the online restrictions that do not allow us to behave as a community, a small community in a roundtable class. So, however, this
Yes,
is the
exactly.
linear
You know,
nature that should just allow us.
may I add the last idea, and I will
Yes, very
definitely be
briefly.
silent. But, as I mentioned at the beginning of my mm, speak, I said that one of the things that he really, as an author, presents in his early plays is the element of the fog and shipwreck. So I think referring to your question, probably, as I said, like that voice of a child, existence of the fog, and then when the plays, as the play go by, in all of his play that have fog elements, the disappearance of that fog maybe represents that you are transferring from unconscious to conscious era. Uh, I let other friends to continue.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Then uh, Ms. Karimi, I should unlock you. Oh, go on.
Hello, sir. Sorry for the delay. I was trying to connect my mic.
Hello.
May I continue?
Yes, please.
Okay. Actually, in this play, the first man's voice was epitome of a person who is a pessimist and a person who is searching for a meaning and actually expects that the fog will lift and the sun will rise. On the other hand, we have the second voice, whose firstly his appearance is not really obvious, and we have his name as dark man, then second voice, then poet. And as we can see, he is through a phase which is called meaninglessness, and he is a pessimist. He thinks that nothing is going to be better. Actually, he is, if I'm not mistaken, he is actually happy that the child passed away, because he's not going through the difficult stages that every poor man is going through. And one of the most important milestone in this play is the part when he wanted to commit suicide. Now I want to say that these stages, I mean, the analyzing of these characters can be, I think, can be seen through Nietzsche's three stages of camel, lion, and child. Uh, as Nietzsche says, everyone is born a camel. He calls a camel because everyone is actually, the burden is tied into their back, and they think that the people who are trapped in this stage think that there is a prescribed meaning for our life. And I think the first man's voice is actually in this stage, because he still thinks that the world, the life has a meaning, and it is preordained, and through these world theories, we are all of us are going to reach the truth. After this stage, a person reaches the lion stage, which is the phase of self-awareness. In this stage, the person questions everything, questions all those world theories, and because of this struggle for reaching this stage, uh, the lion thinks that those world theories are not going to bring us any meaning, any truth, and therefore we will have a nihilism stage here. And I think the second man, the poet, is actually trapped in this stage. And the last stage is the child, which is also significant because at the end of the play, we are told that a captain comes and because of the child's voice, but actually that child was dead. In this stage, a person reaches the meaning that he should accept things and not just questioning everything. And the thing is that in both of the plays, I mean Folk and Anna Christie, we have this item when they reach the point that they must accept everything. I mean, they go through all of these stages, and I think they are at the beginning of child stage.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so of course it was a good, relevant philosophical reading of the play in light of Nietzsche's triple stages of human life. But the question, of course, that remains still unanswered is how this world of unconscious and conscious represented in the play, and that is through the symbol or the symbolic, we can say, the symbolic meanings of fog and sea. So these two are the symbols of, I mean, at least about sea. It is true that the sea stands for the symbol of unconscious on the one hand and death on the other. So we see that the story happens entirely in the sea, and when they are at the sea, there is a kind of existential anxiety that happens between them, and that it is actually a dichotomy between these two. On the one hand, we do have the character of the poet or the first voice, who is always, well, he is not pessimist, but he is a bit far from the optimism, or we can say the happiness, the baseless happiness that may give rise to maybe some false hope. So that is the point, that the sea stands here logically and symbolically for the possibility of death, and at the same time the unconscious, because it is the unconscious rate of human capability that makes him to think about death, even if there is no possibility of this maybe at hand. And however, on the other hand, the person who is called the poet later is is a man of a very strong character and a personality, I think, because he is well enlightened, he is well educated, he knows many things about life and death, he knows many things about society, about justice and oppression, and of course, and tyranny. So this is, I think, the greatest achievement of the play that has been theorized and dramatized by O'Neill, because he should be the linchpin. I mean, the poet, the linchpin of the play. So the other one, I mean, the businessman, is a man of anxiety, as I said, because he is not certain about his life. He has been, as he says, he has been, attempting to create a world for himself, a future for his family, but he does not feel that secure today. That, well, what if I die? What will happen to my wealth? What will happen to my family? This is why, because he has been engulfed entirely by the existential fear of death and the uncertainty that comes after that. That, well, what will come to my family and to my life when I die? So that is, I think, the greatest representation of the symbolic death that they are experiencing. However, the person is not afraid of death. I mean, the poet. However, he has committed suicide before. On the other hand, we do have the character of the poet, who is very the character of the businessman, who is very much afraid of death. However, he knows that there should be always some hope. So this is a contradictory encounter between these two characters. One who is going to die and likes to go to die, is not afraid of death, but he survives, and the other one that loves to live is afraid of death, and he is dying actually at any moment, because the smallest things that happen in the ship, in the boat, makes him to be quite convulsive, and that is a certain form of death that he's experiencing all the time. Okay, just wait for Ms. Parkalian. I should unlock you if you want to talk.
Sorry, sir. So the answer to your question is fog and the sea, yes?
The fog and the sea, yes. Both of them. Actually, the fog is always a symbol of unconscious and death. And it is quite amazing that O'Neill has chosen two very similar symbols that stand for both consciousness, or the unconscious, and the death. However, there is another universal meaning, I mean symbolic meaning of the sea, and that is fertility and maybe reproduction, the perpetual reproduction and the generosity. But here, I think that side, I mean that right side of the sea as a symbolic generous figure should not be, I think, quite valid if we want to think about the dark side of the play.
What about the element of lifeboats, what that represents?
Well, actually, the lifeboat, I think it is just a means. So just think about the probability of the wreck of the ship. So how could the characters be saved? They couldn't be floating over the water through maybe some boards, some wooden boards. Definitely, there was a requirement for a means of saving the lives of these people. So the lifeboat is the best, I think, opportunity for them.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, Ms. Parkalian, we are waiting for you.
Hello, sir.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Actually, I just wrote it in the text box when just the question was raised, the fog as a symbol for the existence at the first of the play, and its disappearance as a symbol for the consciousness and unconsciousness. And we can see as the play starts, that we have a thick fog that covers everywhere, that even the characters cannot see each other. So this is a state of unconsciousness, and when it is like in the morning, the sun rises and its disappearance. So we can see some status of consciousness that is going to be revealed. I can also relate this to this state of symbolic relevance of consciousness and unconsciousness in the very names which are related to the characters, like the first voice, the second voice, the darkman, and the otherman. At first, it's like a state of unconscious that it's just a first voice and the second voice, but then we are going to know them by their profession and job. Still, this is something more, which kind of was somehow interesting for me, that when the first voice and the second voice are going to change their names to something else, it is the darkman and the otherman. Maybe this is the view that they are seeing each other. The darkman in the view of the businessman, the poet actually, in the view of the businessman is going to be a darkman. And at the other hand, in the view of the poet, a businessman is going to be considered as other. Like, you know, the concept of other was a big capital O. Like, he's not one of them because of his viewpoint toward life and toward what is going on in that ship and toward actually that woman and her baby. So, and after this, actually, we are going to know their profession. So this kind of naming the characters and their stages, I think it is a matter of importance and significance. And considering the article, like which was related to it, and somehow how Eugene O'Neill has started from traditionalism of his father and how he has passed away to modernism and even being a pioneer of postmodernism, and how he has shown off his skills and talents in Anna Christie. For example, what was the most dominant things, at least for me, was the ending of the play, how it is an open ending, how it is going to make a decisive break with the previous ages. And at the other hand, how is looking at women through this, how he is going to totally explode the word from the article, how he's going to explode those love relationships, those patriarchal wife-child, and the other things concerning women, and how actually it was Anna, how she is going to redefine his relationship with Matt, with his father, and also how she is going to have a life in his own way, totally different, what they are going to rule over her and how they are going to make a life for her and their own boundaries. But you know, this is the way that actually O'Neill somehow is making for feminism in this play, and how through Anna he is somehow making the tables turn according to the gender relationship of men and women toward each other.
So actually, the juxtaposition of these two plays, Anna and Fog, may lead us to a comparative recognition of the function of these two gender-related matters. I mean, the matter of women in Fog and the matter of gender in Anna Christie. And that is the reality that, however, we know that in the beginning of the 20th century, the time that the play was written, I mean, these plays were written in both, I think, written in 1914, if I'm not mistaken. So they would demonstrate that they were written in the time that women were still considered as the second-rate or second-grade people, and probably it was not the fault of O'Neill to misrepresent them in a way that we may now, after 100 years, would read the poem, the plays, in light of his bias, patriarchy. However, that is true. So we see that in our play, in Fog, we see that the existence of the woman in the play, that is the only one we can see, is absolutely marginalized, and that is a kind of touching existence that does not take attention, does not attract the attention of the people, except for the side, or maybe we can say because of the subtlety of the subject of the son that is dead now. So, however, I just want to say that this is the unconscious representation of patriarchal discourse in the play that represents or signifies the magnitude of existence of man. However, this existence has totally marginalized the existence of the woman. So that is a well, not a cutting edge, but a maybe valid reading of the realization or marginalization, we can say, it is better to say marginalization of the subject of women, of the woman, not based on her gender only, but based on the contribution that she can make to the story of the play. So how could she? Well, suppose that this is a question actually, suppose that she had not faced the death of her son, and she was a robust woman just living with them. And how could the story, the progress of the story would, how could the story go? It is a question that may posit a greater question, and that is the question of identity. How the identity of the woman is defined based on the identity of the men involved in the play. So this is not the only way, but maybe it could be a good policy to marginalize her based on the suffering that she is experiencing because of the death of her son. So actually, we cannot say that this is the only biased reading of the treatment of women by O'Neill. But in the second place, it is a motivating atmosphere that generates maybe some debates among the men between the two men in the ship or in the boat. So that is the point that probably O'Neill did not want or could not, for any reason, exploit the existence of the woman in a better and more effective way. So just gradually, we know that the people in the lifeboat, just like the first voice and the second voice, gradually become known to each other. So, but I don't think that if they move or if they develop, the process of recognizing each other, first they are voices and then they become dark or other men, and then they become the businessmen and maybe the poet, and finally we don't know the names of these people. This progress that is quite cumulative does not mean that they are seeing each other better. However, if you see somebody, you do not know that he's a businessman or he's a poet. So I do believe that this realization, or this maybe identifying each other's identity, or each other's maybe occupation or soul, we can say, does not happen in light of lifting the fog, but it is in light of the knowledge that they get from each other and about each other. And this is a kind of, the same Foucauldian reading that may contribute to our better understanding of how discourse creates knowledge. And this is the same happening that is concretized in the play as a microcosmic condition that the poet and the businessman try to give each other, to exchange some information, and then they know each other well. Not well, just at least better than before. And this is only the time that the characters come to the conclusion that, okay, yeah, this is the time to call him a poet or to call him maybe a businessman, because now I know how ideologies they are belonging to. So that is the best way of making a distinction between the function of fog as a symbol of unconscious that causes these people to remain in darkness, or maybe the probability of getting acquainted with each other in light of the knowledge that they are exchanging. So this is, I think, the matter of knowledge and discourse, rather than the matter of fog itself.
May I just clarify something?
Yes.
I actually just said that I didn't mean that with the disappearance of the fog, this name of the character is going to change from the first voice and the second voice to the dark man and the other man. I didn't mention that at all. I just said that with the disappearance of the fog, there would be a consciousness toward even themselves, not toward each other. But after that, I started to say that when they are, like just you said, I didn't know that word knowledge to use it there, that when they are going to know each other a little bit better, in the viewpoint them toward each other causes them that the name of the character would be changed to the dark man and actually to the businessman. I meant this to the other man, not the businessman. I wanted
So
to
actually, the otherness is quite controversial here, in my opinion, because if you want to shed a paradigmatic light of criticism over the existence of these characters, it should be, of course, also at the same time capable of making the justification of why the author or the playwright is imposing that concept of darkness, or well, at the same time with the otherness, or just on these characters. And that is, I think, based on our reading, that in what condition we are reading the play. So the dark man is, I think the channeled recognition of these characters has been realized, or has been maybe suggested indirectly from the point of view of the businessman. So who calls the man dark, or who calls the man other? So from the point of view of the poet, the businessman is the other because he does not understand what it means.
yes.
And from the
exactly.
point of view of the businessman, the poet is a dark man because his mind, his mentality is based on destruction, on death, and he's all the time perpetually thinking about suicide. So this is, I think, a kind of reciprocal deal that we are, enjoying in the play. So sometimes the dark man is the poet, and sometimes the dark man is the businessman, and vice versa. Sometimes the businessman is the other, and sometimes the poet is the other, because there are only two people in the dialogue, and they do not accept finally each other's ideas. And this is a sense of contradiction that is perpetual, and of course will be everlasting until the moment that they are released from the lifeboat and they are just evacuated. Yes, Mr. Gudarzi, Muazzam Gudarzi, do you want to say something?
Dr. Lek, I wanted to add something just concerning the question that you asked.
Yes, please.
You
Dr. Ms. Barkolia.
What? Thank you, Ms. Gudarzi. I will end up in 2 minutes. It does not take long.
Well, actually, 2 minutes is a long time.
1 minute. Okay, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I wanted to say that I meant a short time. I wanted to say that you said if the woman in the ship, in the actually boat, wasn't dead, what would happen? I think that if that woman wasn't dead, nothing. I think his death is symbol. I think her death is symbolic, like, because if she wasn't dead within that boat, because she was a peasant, because she did not had anything to do, no money, no man to support her. So even if she wasn't dead, nothing would have changed. She would have been dead in the real life as well. So I just wanted to add this. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Yes, that is true. So this is why I said the conception of womanhood, or woman in general, or female actually body of O'Neill is absolutely different from our conception. So because we are postmodern people who are living in the most developed societies, well, actually not us, I mean just the Europeans and Americans, and they would be conscious of the rights of women. They would be, maybe nowadays at least, they would be supporters of human rights. So they would not put a woman like that, so devastated and so, broken, that O'Neill had, pessimistically assigned that woman in the play. Okay, Mr. Gudarzi, Muazzam Gudarzi, go on.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for all your good representation. I enjoyed a lot. Yes, for me, this is actually the battlefield for gaining, for understanding the unconscious part of man's life. I think that all these characters in different kinds of situations, even the businessman, the poet, who are, as our professor said, have, let's say, different roles and have different, let's say, actors which are somehow opposite there, can be the representation of a single person in different stages of life. I think if we want to look closer, even the introduction of the characters by Eugene O'Neill is totally different. You know, the woman from the beginning of the story, in that gloomy situation, full of the first thing that reminds our mind is that this is in this character, I mean the girl or the woman had to be called self, and that's why your professor said that the struggle for finding the human right for women adapted. And but today I think that we have the same situation in our country, and it can, because I think that we have not actually passed postmodernism, modernism, and we are not going to with postmodernism, in which the right of women and the, let's say, equal rights are the most important issue in European countries. But every day we can see the same thing in our life, and that bothers our conscience, and that the faulty, let's say, condition in the story can be felt actually where we are living right now. I'm not talking about, I'm not a person who just talks about those bad conditions, but I actually feel it with all my bones. You know that with the woman and her dead child in her arm, at one hand, and actually in a boat which represents the journey of life, and the poet and the businessman on the other hand, we can see the division, and that's what we actually see in our society. I think that we can call, let's say, Eugene O'Neill a person who somehow anticipated the situation in his own time, and maybe in other countries when the time, I mean, for example, in our country right now. But the thing that is important also for me is that he plays with words. I know that the words is very important for him, because the play is not very long. It's, I think, a one play, and the use of is very important. You see that there are two kinds of meaning for most of the words that Eugene used. One surface meaning, and the second one the deep meaning. And he put the emphasis on the deep meaning, and that's when you are reading the, let's say, play or the third or the from the first reading. That's it.
Okay. Yes. Thank you very much for your comments. And that is the continuation of our discussion that should focus on the characters themselves. Although I do not think that we have enough time today to dwell into the depth of the study of the characters. However, we'll try to probe into some synoptical elements of the story. So you know that this story was written. I mean, the play was written in 1914, and that was 2 years after the time that O'Neill had been released from the sanitarium where he had been hospitalized for some time because of tuberculosis. So when he came out from the hospital, he said that he had been revived and he had been given a new life. And in this new life, he had tried to compensate for some of the mistakes that he had made in his life, and maybe keeping his distance from his family because he had a very turbulent childhood and teenagehood. Because, he had some problems with his father, strained and all the time conflicting connection with his father, and his mother was addicted to opium, and of course maybe to some other drugs. So he suffered a lot in his life, and always, and it is maybe quite relevant maybe that he was always looking for serenity and capability of being a rich man, or maybe at least a happy man in his life. However, it did not it did not come true, because he suffered until the end of his life, and finally he died. However, he was not that much old when he died. So that is, I think, a kind of historical, biographical resonance of the life of him. I mean, in old plays. So just like just two other plays by him, just like Warnings and Thirst, are set in a lifeboat. So this is the third play by him that represent or portray the illumination of life, or the sparkles of life that could be the locus of hope in the middle of nowhere. So that is maybe the reality that he had faced after his release from sanitarium, that how a human being can be transformed into a better maybe person if he experiences a variety of bitterness. And that was a kind of journey that he had consciously or unconsciously, and of course successfully, maybe undertook from the year of 1912 to 1914. So yes, what else?
Professor,
Yes.
I think that he is called as the father of horrific reality, and some say that the Nobel Prize is for his bitterness, as you asked us.
Yes, but I think we had better not combine, or at least craft, the playwright's maybe career and craft to his biographical notes of records. However, he was a successful dramatist in his time, and his works used to be staged at the best stage and theater in America, Broadway, I think. So that is quite normal that somebody like him could be so much signified, and of course, received well by the audience, and of course critics, actually. Okay, Mr. Sharifi. Wait, I should unlock you. But I can't find you on the list. Oh yes, it's here.
Hello, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Hello.
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
I just wanted to say that I don't fully concur with the fact that the fog is a representation of the unconscious. It's actually something more than that. It's kind of, collective subconscious of the all characters. And this concept cannot be found in Freudian psychology. Freud tried to imagine, as you know, the inner conflicts that lie deep inside the human personal unconscious on the layer of their conscious. However, it is something that we see in Jungian psychoanalysis. Because I studied mostly on psychoanalysis, I can kind of elaborate more on this. Jung saw the value of the collective subconscious, and O'Neill kind of is using this concept and applying to the characters in the play the emotional transitions, conflicts, and inner complexities which represent the collective conscious are expressed with the use of this symbol, fog. And we kind of see the boat as a microcosm of the society. It's not only, the conflicts they are facing is not about just the characters. The indispensable part of the play is that they do. They have names. They could have names, but they don't. So they could be anyone. We are talking about anyone here, and it's the situation of the modern man in the modern society who are left alone, like stranded on the sea, and they cannot find their way. It's something more than just the characters, and the poet is a representation to my eyes. Is the representation of the imagination, and the imagination is here on the verge of committing suicide. So the imagination is ending, and the businessman is kind of like an opposing point, a shadow, as Jung says. Jung says all people have a shadow, and this archetypal shadow, the businessman is against the poet, and finally what survives is the materialistic point of view. The poet, the businessman is the one that survives, and the poet is left alone there to die. I'm not in the habit of talking a lot, so that was my take on the play.
Actually, regarding the Jungian shadow, it is quite informal or maybe inaccurate to say that the shadow of the businessman is, well, maybe he's optimistic or something else. However, it is a vice versa. It is the other way around. According to
I believe it's mutual, isn't it? Mutual. Maybe it's kind of
well, shadow, if you're accentuating the concept of shadow from the Jungian perspective, from the perspective of Jung, actually, the existence of shadow in people's characters could be mostly something related to that of Freud's maybe id, and that is the maybe sinister side of human psychological maybe possibilities or quite psychological entities. So that is quite maybe a bit unrealistic if we contribute to the discussion in the way that we are just making a graft between that Jungian maybe shadow, because for Jung, the shadow is mostly a negative quality that may lead people to a darkness that may cause the tragic fall of the character. And if this is the point, we should attribute that concept of shadow to the suicidal thought of the poet, but not to the optimistic maybe behavior of the other man or the businessman. Yes. Anyway, that is nice that all of you try to be active in the discussions. There are many people that do not cooperate and they do not involve in debates.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
You are welcome, Ms. Dashti. Yes, I am unlocking you.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Offline. Thank you for the discussion. The things that I'd like to add was the image of the woman in this play, and actually it seems that this image is somehow repetitive in this. I mean, is I forgot the name. Yeah, in O'Neill plays. You know, and it somehow echoes Ibsen's. I mean, talking of the gender and the I mean this and the matters. You know, he somehow wants to actually means he has a supportive. You know, he's the voice of woman, and in this fog story, the moment that he decides to, I mean, he doesn't leave the ship as it is sinking. The only reason that encourages him to leave the ship is that, I mean, it is for the sake of a woman. He finds the woman alone and with his child, so he decides to help him. So it seems that actually this image of woman somehow as is something like the sea, or the woman is the reason for life. Actually, as we see in the beyond the I mean in the story of the Anne and Christie, that these two men were fighting for their life, and that woman was something that gave them the reason or helped them to enjoy life. In that story of the fog also it is the same. You know, he says that it was only because of the sake of, I mean, it was for her that I decided to go to the sea. And of course it has some elements of his life, and in other story, in other plays, under the Desire Under the Elms, again there is a young woman who is fighting for his life, for her life.
So actually, in that play, there is an unusual kind of relationship between the stepmother and one of the one of the childs, one of the sons of Ephraim. So that is a bit maybe complicated to attribute that
but
discussion
he's,
to
you know,
this one.
Somehow he wants to release from the trap of the, I mean, the wedlock of the marriage. That's why maybe we say that it is somehow postmodern, or it's different. So it resembles Ibsen in that sense, in Doll's House. You know, Ibsen in Doll's House leaves the house.
So actually,
I mean, if it was a conventional woman, and if she wanted to conform with the convention, she had many reasons to stay, but she left. And here again, we have the Anne, who, I mean, we have, you know, she's rewarded the marriage, you know, the point that exactly the Matt and Chris conclude, okay, they have her. She suddenly talks about her past, which is not something acceptable, about revealing her past prostitute. So I think these repetitive things may somehow want to, I mean, want to break the image or the things that was a Victorian image of women, to be chaste, to be submissive. I think that was, of course, in other stories we have this image. In The Fog is something different, but still, women is, I mean, the female itself is the reason for survival and keeping the life.
Yes.
In Fog.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, everybody. We are reaching the end of our session. And next week, we should continue reading and analyzing this play again, because next week we should just focus mostly on the philosophy of existentialism and maybe some psychological readings of the play. So think about it. You have 1 week to sleep on this play in order to digest it. You can read maybe some materials elsewhere, and there is a handful of good critical material on the internet that you can trust reading about it. However, I may finally need your own interpretation and your own reading. So that is part of your critical awareness that should give way to your developed perception of the play. So you should mostly rely on your own knowledge. Thank you very much and have a nice time. I should see you next week.